Fear Street is a series of teen horror books written by R. L. Stine that began publication in 1989. The books have sold over 80 million copies. A film adaptation has been in development since 1997. ABC aired a pilot for a potential television series in 1998 called Ghost of Fear Street, but never went further than that. In 2015, development began on an adaptation produced by Chernin Entertainment and distributed by 20th Century Fox. Lee Janiak was brought on to direct and oversee the scripts for the adaptation, which was now a trilogy. The three films were shot back-to-back in 2019 with an intended theatrical release date of June 2020. However, the coronavirus took Fear Street off the schedule, and after Disney's acquisition of Fox, Chernin chose to end their distribution deal with them and gave the trilogy to Netflix. The three films were released consecutively 1 week at a time in summer 2021. Each film takes place in a different time period: 1994, 1978, and 1666. The first two are essentially slasher films, with the third film taking a radically different approach. The trilogy focuses on a small town called Shadyside and a curse upon the town while the neighboring Sunnyvale prospers. The legend goes that Sarah Fear was a witch that was hung in 1666, but she cursed the town. Every few years, a random citizen of Shadyside is possessed by the witch and goes on a killing spree. Dina is a Shadyside high schooler who is caught in the conflict when her ex-girlfriend Sam accidentally uncovers Fear's remains, making her a target. Dina, along with her brother Josh and her friends, have to find a way to save Sam from the curse. Taking place in the 90s, the first film is a tribute to Scream. It has that kind of self-aware humor and nihilistic teens who are too clever for their own good. Additionally, Marco Beltrami, Scream's composer, provided some of the music for the trilogy, and it's very similar. What's admirable about Part 1 is that it isn't just a tribute. The movie could have gotten away with just hitting that 90s nostalgia button and moving on, but it has its own story to tell, its own unique tone and style. The movie never feels derivative. Despite being an adaptation and a throwback, the movie feels really fresh. A lot of that is thanks to the characters. Dina is not a typical final girl in that she isn't really a girl next door type. She isn't always nice. She's this flawed, normal person. I really enjoyed the initial conflict between Dina and Sam. These are high school kids trying to figure out their identity and sexuality, which is a tough thing for any kid, but especially gay kids, thanks to the prejudice embedded in our culture. Dina, being the more aggressive of the two, doesn't know how to deal with her closeted girlfriend, and I like that Dina is allowed to be the bad guy in that scenario. Sam's ready when she's ready, and it's not fair for Dina to pressure her. I thought this was a really believable high school relationship, and I found myself pretty invested in it. Another cool element was the supernatural twist, the mythology of this witch, Sarah Fear, and the cursed town doomed to suffer. That stuff is really fun and interesting, and gives the movie this great idea that there isn't just one slasher killer, but a group of them, and they're all unkillable zombies. That's really fun and gives the movie a nice bit of variety. If I have any complaints, it's that the rules are a little wonky. The killers are after Sam because she touched Sarah Fear's remains, and they track Sam through her blood. So anyone with Sam's blood on them becomes a target as well. But the Skull Mask Killer kills several members of a hospital staff, none of whom would have had Sarah's blood on them. I'm just a little confused by that. The ending is fantastic. I really didn't see it coming. I figured that each film would be a little more standalone, with parts 2 and 3 just filling in the backstory. I didn't realize that the 1994 story would continue as a framing device for the whole trilogy. That's really cool. The structure of the trilogy really works. How the story unfolds is really satisfying and interesting. I think the movies are that much better when you have them as a whole. Part 1 revealed that there was a survivor during a previous killing spree in 1978. Dina and Josh go to her to figure out how to stop the witch after Sam is possessed to become the new killer. The survivor, C. Berman, tells the two her story, which is the 1978 segment. Two sisters, Ziggy and Cindy, are at a summer camp when the latter's boyfriend Tommy is possessed, becoming the axe-wielding Nightwing killer we met in Part 1. It is a tribute to Friday the 13th and similar slash films with the camp setting and Nightwing's design takes cues from Jason Voorhees in Friday the 13th, Part 2. Before he gets the mask, Tommy also resembles Jack Torrance from The Shining. The movie is a little sleazier and a little gorier, and it doesn't shy away from slaughtering children, which is a nice change of pace from these kind of films, and adds quite a bit of tension. There is a real kind of frustrating tragedy here. The camp is comprised of Shadysiders and the Sunnyvale residents, the latter group being comprised of preppy douchebags who typically in these movies would die horrifically, and it's very satisfying. But the curse focuses on Shadysiders, so the people that would normally die, and that you, the audience, would cheer to die, are completely safe, which is very frustrating, but that's kind of how I'm supposed to feel watching this. I like this sibling dynamic. Ziggy and Cindy parallel Dina and Sam in certain ways. Cindy and Sam are both kind of optimistic and hopeful that they can find a way out of Shadyside. They're a little bit in denial and repressing themselves, while Ziggy and Dina are more nihilistic and confrontational. While I guessed very quickly that Ziggy would be the survivor we met in 1994, I still like the switch. Cindy is a more typical final girl. I like her, but I appreciate that this trilogy doesn't feel trapped by the conventions of this subgenre and wants to mess with people. A scene that is a particular highlight is when Cindy, Alice, Arnie, and Tommy find the lair of the witch. Cindy and Alice find a room where there is a witch marking on the floor and a list of names carved into the wall. When a killer is chosen, their name is carved on the wall, and Alice notices that Tommy's name is on the wall. Now, this isn't some grand twist or anything. We almost immediately know that Tommy is the killer. But there's this suspense of waiting for shit to hit the fan. And once Alice sees the wall, there's this immediate tone shift that really works. I also enjoyed the further unraveling of the mystery. It was a lot of fun trying to figure out what was going on and how to stop it. And there's this feeling of dread because we know the Berman sisters fail. One lives, but the witch wasn't stopped. There's an intensity to that, especially when all of the killers come out. The scene where they attack the two sisters is brutal. Part 2 ends back in '94. Using the information she got from Ziggy, Dina reunites Sarah Fear's severed hand with the rest of her remains, which leads directly into Part 3. The third film mostly takes place in 1666. Reuniting the remains gives Dina a vision of what exactly happened to Sarah Fear. It becomes painfully clear very quickly that Sarah Fear was not a witch or a villain. She was just gay and in love with the pastor's daughter. Part 3 is the least fun of the trilogy, but the most effective. It is a slow burn tragedy filled with a lot of dread as you wait for this town to betray and murder an innocent woman. Sarah is very compelling. She's kind, smart, and fun, and portrayed well by Kiana Madeira. This is a good place to talk about the acting. Everyone in the 1966 segment is played by someone from the first two parts, just as a different character. Madeira also plays Dina. This is a really good cast that performs well in the slasher segments, as well as the portion in 1666 where they all have to use an accent. There's not a weak link in the bunch, all strong performances. Additionally, a few of them went to a Kiss concert before filming to bond, so bonus points for being cool. There is a clever misdirect where it looks like Sarah is going to become a witch, but before she can, the rug is pulled out and the true villain is revealed. Throughout the trilogy, there is this sheriff character named Nick Good who also had a teen romance with Ziggy in 1978. His ancestor, not Sarah, was the one who made the deal with the devil to sacrifice souls and blood in exchange for a prosperous life. This deal is passed down through the Good family, resulting in the Shadyside versus Sunnyvale split. Nothing bad ever happens in Sunnyvale thanks to this deal, while the Shadysiders are sacrificed. Solomon Good betrays Sarah and gives her to the town, who hang her. It is incredibly sad and a little hard to watch, especially when Sarah chooses to confess in order to save Hannah, the woman she's in love with. The Good twist is excellent. It never even occurred to me to suspect the sheriff or even think that there would be a surprise villain, but it's so well set up. such as in part 2 when Nick talks to Ziggy about the pressure of a mantle being passed down. At first glance, you would assume that's about becoming sheriff, but it's actually about this curse. Or in part 3, when Solomon is trying to calm the town down about their superstitions. At first glance, you think he's trying to protect Sarah, but he's actually covering his own tracks. The twist manages to be surprising, but ties the whole trilogy together and really works, which is pretty hard to do. Part 3 rewards us for sitting through all that really sad stuff with a final segment in 1994 in which Dina, Josh, and Ziggy try to stop good, leading to a final confrontation in the mall. The conclusion is really satisfying, especially after seeing what Sarah went through. Recently I made a video on the future of slasher films, particularly the classic franchises, and this trilogy only proves further that I don't think we need those series anymore. It is a lot more fun to engage with movies like these, or Happy Death Day, or TV shows such as Slasher and Scream Queens, projects that can play with the tropes but add their own flavor to it, new mythologies and new characters. I had so much fun with these movies. This is my shit, all capital letters. While I'm sure a theatrical release would have been fun, I am kind of glad they went the Netflix route. I enjoyed getting to watch the 3 movies all together. This is not an exaggeration. I love these movies, and I think this might be my favorite movie trilogy now. We finally got another part 3 that didn't completely fumble the ball. If you haven't seen these movies and you're watching this review for some reason, you should definitely check them out. And if you have seen them, let me know what you think. I'm definitely going to add these to my Halloween viewing every year.